Welcome to the Prevent a Website Redesign Disaster webinar. My name is Michelle Gordine and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Moon Marketing. Our presenter today is Krista Moon. Krista is the founder of Moon Marketing and she specializes in digital marketing strategies that deliver qualified sales leads. Now we'll begin. Krista?
Thanks for coming on, and thank you, Michelle, for the introduction. And as we know, creating or redesigning a website is a huge job. It takes a lot of time and resources, and it can quickly escalate in cost. So it can be a huge success, which is great, or it can end up being a total flop. And the last thing anyone wants to do is spend all this time and money developing a website for it not to be successful. So that's why I put together this presentation. I wanted to make sure that before you begin your website redesign, if you do these 4 things, then it will make the whole process go much, much smoother. You'll save time, you'll save money. When you get ready to talk to your website designer or developer, you'll have a much better plan in place and have much more effective conversations with them. Before I go through those 4 things, though, I wanted to share with you, if you do them, here's what you're going to get at the end of this process. This is phase 1 of planning and preparing. You're going to know who you're targeting and what you're selling, which sounds pretty obvious, but when you're thinking about your website and how to represent that information online, it can be pretty challenging to put that into exact words. So this process will help you solidify that. It will help you figure out what messaging will be on the website. It will help you figure out what technology you'll need, because that's a pretty complicated question. And you'll know how you're going to market and sell your company, so that can be incorporated into your whole website design. And then, more importantly, you'll know if it's all working or not. You'll have strategies and a process in place to know if the things that you're doing are actually working. And lastly, before you jump into your whole project of designing or redesigning your website, you'll know what ongoing budget project you're going to need to account for, so that you can make sure that this whole thing fits into your budget and you can get a return on your investment. So the first thing that you want to do is set goals. And when I do that, the first thing I like to do is go and analyze the competition. I want to see what everyone else is doing, so that I know what are the strengths, what are their weaknesses, what makes them different, what makes me different from them, what are their specialties. All these things are so important. And also, I want to make sure that if they're doing something, like if they're blogging, let's say that they're blogging and they're doing it 2 times a week, and I'm not doing anything for blogging. What's happening is that they're building up a very strong online presence, and they're going to dominate me online. So at that point, if I know what marketing strategies all the competition is doing, it really helps me figure out what I should be doing. So some of the things we look at in competitor analysis include, we look at the demographics, the business type, industry, talent. That's really important, because that could be a differentiator. Do they have different types of employees with different skill sets than you do? The revenue, when they started, what locations they have, and who the owner is, because that's another key differentiator potentially. The personality of the owner can make a difference. I look at definitely the marketing strategy. So you can get a really good understanding of how people are doing this just by looking at their website and their social media. Who are they targeting? Because maybe I could target someone slightly different, or if we're targeting the same exact people, if you can find a way to figure out what their market share is compared to yours. Like I said before, look at their website. If do they have a really ultra-modern website and yours is old and dated, this helps you figure out where at least a benchmark of where your website should be to be competitive. This is an important one. It makes your job so much easier. If you go out to your competitor's website and you look for keywords that they're using on their site, you can have a list. So before you even do any keyword research at all, you're going to have a huge list of keywords that could be potentially words that you could use. Lead generation, are they doing that on their website or not? Like as far as collecting names on their website with the form. As I mentioned, blogging, are they doing that? Are they doing email marketing? Are they doing social media? And if so, what are they putting out on their social media, how frequently, and what are their distribution channels? We look at their products and services, and this is going to help you solidify your own sales messaging, because you're going to look at what are they offering, and how does that compare to what you're offering. You want to look at the price, of course, their value proposition, and really you just want to look at their website and see, if you go there, can you quickly and easily understand what they do, and how are they representing themselves with words. And if you write all this down and you compare it side by side, when you go to write your own website copy, you'll have a good starting point. It's much easier to start with, at least with something, than to try to pull it out of thin air. So this is really important when you're looking at writing your website copy, to at least understand what other people are saying and how they're saying it as your starting point. Because then too, you can make sure that you're saying it differently, hopefully better, hopefully more concise and more consistent with your entire brand and offering. The other thing you want to look at is some strategic attributes. Things like your core values, your core focus, approach. How do you, what is your process for delivering your products and services? Again, what is unique about each of these competitors? And then once you do all this, and you're going to have a nice spreadsheet, and you can identify strengths and weaknesses, and you'll be able to determine if you're heading in the right direction with your own products and services, or if maybe you need to change it up a little bit. So once you do your competitor analysis, you want to define your own objectives. So you might think you would do that first, but I like to do the competitive analysis first, because once you do that, you might change your objectives once you see what's going on in the marketplace. So you need to understand, when you're doing your website redesign, what are you actually trying to accomplish? It's very important to figure this out, because otherwise you're just going to have a website and you have no idea what you're supposed to be doing with it. Some ideas that you could do, or objectives you could think about: of course, increasing revenue, getting leads, retaining customers or members if you're an association or organization, gain followers on social media. Do you want to grow your email list? Do you want to develop awareness about your company, attract new talent, build a community, improve your reputation? So these are just some ideas, but you need to figure out what are your objectives and find them. And then after that, once you know what you're trying to do, the next question is, okay, that's great. You want to develop awareness. Well, how do you know if you're doing that or not? How are you going to know if you're successful? So you need to figure out, what is the data that you're going to collect, and what is the process for collecting it? And once you have that down, now you have a really good plan going on. You know what you're trying to accomplish, and you can set goals for yourself, and you'll have a way to measure if you're being successful or not. If you just say, oh, I want to develop awareness, that sounds really cool, but you don't have any way for measuring that, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So that's step one, is setting goals. Step two is to define your target market. And really everything else that comes after the competitor analysis, it's all going to be tied together. You're probably going to be doing these things in conjunction with one another. It's not that you'll do one step after the other. So when you're defining your target market, you want to create a buyer persona. This is the character in your story. And how we do it, there's a million different buyer persona templates out there, but I have a spreadsheet that we offer as a content lead generation offer on our website. Is you list out your customers, and then you look at them, what industry. See, this kind of goes, like I said, hand in hand with that competitor analysis. But you're looking at your customers, so you can get a feel for how old are they, what's important to them, why did they do business with you in the past, or why did they stop doing business with you, where do they get information, what do they like, what do they not like, all that good stuff. What is their decision-making power? What is their title? What is their role within the company? This is the first step in developing your buyer personas, to lay them out side by side. And once you do that, then you can develop, usually companies would have more than one persona, and you would lay it out like this so that when you're writing, because I mean the website is a story, it's the story of your company, and the character is your prospect and how you're going to help them. So if an author is going to write a fiction book, or if they're going to have a sheet and they're going to outline all the characters, and you really seriously need to do the same exact thing for your company. So for this one, it's like the newbie, and the cougar, and then the gunslinger. This is the VP of marketing, and then the CMO, the chief marketing officer. So you can put pictures to them if you want or whatnot, but definitely creating your buyer persona so you know who you're talking to. And then the next step is this is a little bit more complicated, outline your buyer journey. So once you know who your persona is, you put yourself in their shoes. You become that person in your mind, and you think about, what are all the things that this person's going to need to know to do business with me? And there's three main stages. There's awareness, consideration, and decision. There's a lot of information out on the web about buyer journey, so if you're not familiar with this, I highly recommend you go check it out. But the awareness is obviously they're experiencing a problem and they're trying to figure out something is wrong. They've come to an awareness that they need something. And from a marketing perspective and a website perspective, hopefully with your content that you're creating and publishing and things like that, you can bring awareness to them, because sometimes people don't know they have a problem. But if they see your name and what you're offering over and over and over again, hopefully over time they'll become aware that there's something missing in their lives that you can help them solve. And when you're in the awareness stage, you're looking for things like guides, ebooks, blog articles, those types of information. In the consideration stage, this is where, okay, I know there's an issue, something is missing in my life, I'm starting to understand what it is that is missing, and then I need to find a solution. So I'm searching for a way to solve this problem, to eliminate this pain or this discomfort that I feel. And when I'm doing that, I'm looking for things like comparisons, expert guides, a sales call, maybe a demo, things like that. And then finally, in the decision stage, I know what my problem is, I know what the potential solutions are, and now I need to decide what solution is best for me. And that's where you're looking for vendors or someone to help you with your problem. And that's where you're going to look for case studies, testimonials, pros and cons. You're going to be comparing one company or one solution against another solution so that you can choose the best one that's for you. And this part of the whole pre-website design or redesign is so important because it's going to guide all of your messaging. So if you think about how you're going to set up your website, you need to consider this, because when you become the prospect and they come onto your home page, what information are you going to be offering there? What do they need to know to get to the next step in the sales process? The next step after that, so now you know who your competitors are, you know what your goals and objectives are, you know who you're talking to and how they think, and the information they're probably going to need to progress through the sales process. You need to start thinking about your website copy now. And this is where it kind of gets hard, but we can do it. So there's some things you can do to get started so you don't have to start from a blank slate. It makes it a little bit easier. The first step is to inventory your current existing assets. And this could be a million different things. Maybe you have presentations. Maybe you have articles. You've got brochures. You've got your current web copy. You need to look at everything that you currently have and decide what is good, what needs updating, and what you want to trash. So it's, over time things don't fit anymore. So go out, first step, look at everything you have and analyze it and evaluate it and how it relates back to all the things that we just talked about. Then the keywords. If you're going to write website copy, you need to have your keywords identified. So you've already kind of mapped out potential keywords with your competitor analysis, and now you need to really hone in, now that you know what you're offering and things like that, what words are you going to focus on? So if someone puts fingers to keyboard and they hit enter, what are the chances are they're going to find what you're offering? And finally, so you've got your keywords ready, you can start thinking about your own messaging. And I recommend, before you really dive in with the website designer or developer, if you don't have one already, or if you have one, go back and look at it again. Create a sales presentation. Pretend that you're sitting in front of a prospect or member or potential member for your organization, and go through your sales presentation. Write it down, map it out, do a PowerPoint, try to make it look as fast as you can, because it's going to be the guideline for your website developer to use in developing your website. I always like to say that your website should be your most compelling sales presentation. So once you have that, now you're in a really good place, because you have this is like your first draft of your website copy. There's going to be a lot of revisions after that, but it's a great starting point, and it's definitely valuable to your website designer so that they know exactly what you're trying to say and present to your potential customers. And step number 4, once you have all that, you need, okay, great, we know kind of what's going to be on the site, we know who we're talking to, and all that good stuff. What kind of technology do we need to pull this off? And that is where you come into the function and process section. The first thing I recommend is outline your key promotion strategies, and you don't really have to go in necessarily at this stage and do a full marketing plan, but you should know in general how are you going to promote your company, because this does impact the functionality you need on your website. So for example, if you want to blog and do blog articles, of course you need to have that functionality on your website. You need to have a blog. Or if you're going to do content offers, such as, just to make sure we're all on the same page, no pun intended, you know, with the form, if you're going to do this kind of thing, where you're going to offer a piece of content, an ebook or something with a form, you need to be able to do this on your website. And then the other thing to think about too is what's going to happen when somebody fills out this form. It's really important. What is the process going to be to collect that contact information and get that contact information to the right people and things like that. So if you outline your key promotion strategies, that's going to be critical for the person developing your website. If you say, I'm doing direct mail, well, your website designer needs to know that, because if you're going to send out a postcard, you're probably going to want to put a link to a specific web page so you can collect information. You know, you're driving people back. You're always going to try to drive people back to your website, because that's where all the information is about your company. So the same thing with billboards. All the things between marketing and the website and sales need to be combined and aligned together. The next step is to look at your sales and marketing process, and this is what I was talking about regarding, you're doing lead generation, you're collecting names on your website. What happens to those names? Marketing delivers them because they did a great job in a lead generation campaign. They got 50 people to fill out this form to get this particular content offer. How is sales going to get that contact data? Are they going to have to enter it manually? Do you need some kind of synchronization? What do you use now? So you need to think about all these things before you really jump into your website, so that the designer and the developer know what to do, and you know what kind of functionality and tools you're going to need. Again, like I mentioned before, campaign alignment, everything should be geared towards driving people to that website. Closed loop data, this is something that I recommend so that you can see what marketing activities get the best results. So let's take that direct mail campaign, for example. You send out postcards. I don't necessarily recommend sending out postcards. They're not usually the most effective thing, but for some situations it's great. But let's say that's something you're going to do. You send out the postcard, you have a special link on the postcard to drive them to a particular web page on your site. If you do it correctly and have the right tools and functionality, you can do a tracking link, a special link, so that you can see how many people got that postcard and actually went to this particular web page. So that's closed loop data. And then after they go to the web page, let's say it's a form, they fill out the form, and then they become a customer. At the end of the whole cycle, you can say, I sent out 2,000 postcards and I got 10 customers, which equals $20,000 in new sales. That's closed loop data. And then funneling your stages, marketing and sales both need that contact data. And they need to understand where they are in the sales process. So if someone's an opportunity versus are they just an unqualified prospect? Are they an active prospect that's being pursued by a salesperson? Is it a prospect that is open, they've responded or engaged with you in some way but never has talked to anyone? So you need to align with sales and marketing what your sales stages are going to be so you're speaking the same language, very important. And then clearly defining the roles between sales and marketing so that you can work together. I think today there's not enough alignment between the sales and the marketing. You can't have marketing over here doing all these things and then sales over here doing something completely different. If you're spending money on doing a marketing campaign, you want it completely 100% aligned with sales. So when the salesperson's calling someone, they can use that marketing campaign as part of their sales process. So there needs to be communication and expectations and collaboration, and you need to think about how that's going to look for your organization. The last step, I said at the beginning I said 4 steps. There's actually 5. Sorry about that. Technology. This is where you need to choose what you're going to use for your website and all the things. So I'm going to run through and I'll show you all the different types of functionality and components you might consider when developing your online presence. I like to say online presence because it's not just about your website. The website's the hub, and that's where you have your driving everything to that. But you need to have potentially blogging, social media, lead management, where we talked about before what happens to this contact data, landing pages, the forms that we talked about, calls to action. These are the graphics that are maybe on your website. You could use them in social media, in your email marketing, specialized graphics that are driving people to take some kind of action. Go here, do this, read that, download this. There's tools that can help you measure how many people are clicking on those things. So not all website functionality tools, CRMs or whatnot, have that capability, but if you want that, you need to decide if you do or not, and if the technology you have can offer that. Marketing automation. If someone becomes a lead on your website and they fill out this form for this particular content offer, you could have it automatically send them the next 5 emails, the next 5 pieces of content to keep them engaged, but it kind of automates. It says marketing automation, but I like to think of it as sales automation because you're nurturing the leads without having to have a salesperson actually contact them. And it's very personalized to how the prospect is responding to you and how they're engaging with you. Do you want to do email marketing? And if so, how is that going to tie in to your website? Because if people are downloading things or signing up for your newsletter, whatnot, how are they going to get from that form into your email system? Analytics. How are you? So before we said yes, we want it. This is the data we're going to collect, and how are you going to collect it? This is where this piece comes into play. Every system has different ways of collecting data, so you need to understand that. And then the CRM sync, which we talked about with the contacts. So the tool we use, which is called HubSpot, can do all these things all in one system, which is a big time saver and very convenient and easy to use. However, if you don't want to use something like HubSpot. You need to think about which of these components do you need, and how are you going to implement that with the tools that you choose. And this information is critical when you're going to work with your designer developer, so they know what to design and develop on, basically. So lastly, so that's all phase one. If you do all those 4 things, at the end of the day, when you go to sit down to really mock up your website, you're going to have a great starting point. And that's where we get into the website build. I'm not going to go through all this, but I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of, you did your planning and preparation. Now what happens? Design and layout. You're going to create wireframes. You're going to create just a basic sketch of what is going to be on the page. It doesn't have design. It might not even be in the location or in the way that you want it, but you're going to say, this is what needs to be on these pages. And once you have that, the designer is going to take it and you can start to create a more in-depth wireframe where you can place things where you want them and kind of think about the functionality of each page. And once you have that done, the wireframes are finalized, you can think about what visual assets are going to accompany them. Images, graphics, like iStock graphics, or you can do custom graphics, all the things that make it nice and pretty. And then you finalize your mock-up. So you have a good idea of what each page is going to look like. The thing I find so interesting is that once you have that done, so you've designed it once on paper, and now your programmer has to take that paper design and translate it into computer language. So now they're going to have to program it. So the final might not look exactly like your mock-up because of the functionality and the way that things look online is different. And then also your programmer has to not only design for your desktop, but he or she has to design for your phone, for your tablet, and all the spaces in between. So there's a lot of designing that has to go on, and it can be a lot of work. That's why the stuff that we do up front is so important, because if you spend a lot of money to have a programmer doing all these things, they develop your desktop version and your mobile version, and then all of a sudden you say, oh, I want to say this, I want to do something completely different, then you just wasted all that time. You don't want to do that. And in the programming area, I also say program your sales platform if you don't have one, because again, if you're going to use your website for selling purposes, you better have a sales process in place and a way to manage your sales information. And building your report system. So you know what data you want to collect, how you're going to collect it, but now you need to get that programmed and in place so that you can actually create those reports. Once all that's done, testing, all that good stuff, and then you can launch and your website's live. So that's great. And then after that, you're going to figure out how to promote it, and that you kind of touched on that in the earlier stages. But now is the time to really start the blogging, start the email marketing, start the social media, and all those campaigns that you are going to implement. So that is my recommendation for what to do before you jump into the whole website redesign. The competitor analysis and setting goals, defining your objectives, outlining your character in your story, making sure you know them inside and out. They're a member of your family, in your mind anyways. And let's see, what was the 4th one? Can't remember now. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the function and process. Make sure you know what functionality you need and what processes you're going to have in place to get these things done, and then figuring out your technology. And that being said, are there any questions? Michelle?
Okay. The first question is, how much do you really think a poor website affects a business's bottom line?
Well, I think, in my opinion, if someone comes to your website and it's hard for them to get the information they need, they're going to leave and go to your competitor's website. That's why I think the competitor analysis is so important. I think it's critical. I think that your website is as important or even more important than your brick and mortar store if you have one. It's the place where you're inviting people in to learn more about you. And I just see too many companies that don't take that seriously. They don't invest enough money into that presence. But that's the first place 90% of the time people are going to learn anything about you is through your website. And if they go there and they can't get the information they need, it's outdated, it's clunky, maybe it's cluttered, and they don't know what to do or where to look or anything, they're just going to jump off that thing as fast as can be and go to a different website. It's not like they have to get in their car and drive to a different building. So I would say it's probably one of the most important things you can put your money into.
Absolutely, absolutely. Next question we got was, how often should a website be evaluated to determine if a redesign is required?
I would associate that with your competitor analysis, because you can't just do a competitor analysis one time. But I mean, businesses change. They're changing their website all the time. They're changing their process. They're changing their products and services that they're offering. So you should be doing your competitor analysis, I would think, at least quarterly, if you know, semi-annually at a minimum. Quarterly would be great. If you just want to do it annually, I guess if that's okay, but I mean minimum once a year at a minimum. But every 6 months or every quarter, just going out seeing what your competitors are doing and see that they're doing things that you're not, that's the sign that maybe you need to start to upgrade. And also, as you go along with your company, you're always modifying your products and services, and you're getting better at how you're selling things. You're creating better sales presentations, creating better messaging, hopefully. So, and you maybe need more functionality or different functionality than you needed before. So it goes hand in hand with your own company and business objectives, and then what your competitors are looking at and doing.
Okay, great advice. We have time for one more question.
Okay.
And whom should we ask for opinions about our website? Is there an inexpensive source?
I know that's a tough question, because there's a difference between a website designer and like a marketing strategist or a website strategist. So if you go to Joe Blow down the road who's going to develop your website for $2,500, you're going to get a completely different response than if you go to someone who's more of a strategic thinker. So I would say if you don't have a lot of money, you're going to have to do your own research, go online, look at some different resources to learn. You have to learn on your own. And if not, most agencies, like if you work with a HubSpot marketing agency like us, there's many of them. I mean, of course, we can help you with that. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I wouldn't be doing this webinar if I didn't think that we can help you do that kind of thing. But I would definitely look for, when you go to a marketing agency's website, people that talk about strategy and user experience and not just design. I would look for companies that are blogging themselves, that are doing these, all the things that you want to do or think you should do. Are they doing it? And then you can make your decision as far as who to talk to.
Great. Thank you, Krista. That's all of the questions we have for today.
Well, thanks everyone for attending. I really appreciate it. We will, as Michelle mentioned at the beginning, we'll send you the recording so you can look at it later if you want to. And if you have any questions, feel free to call us anytime. Have a great one. We'll see ya.